Here comes the fun part. How do we replace great talent, but even though they were cancer and cranky, we still need to replace with just good talent so we don't lose the quality of the signage that we produce. Our processes aren't down on paper. Our way to reload the knowledge back into the employees when one leaves is not there. And we have a fundamental problem on how we run our company. You know what I also did that nobody else did? Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Oh man, so much fun stuff. Let's see here. We brought on a chief growth officer to Square Coil. And he's in charge of all revenue and everything on the front end. He's already making big splashes, big waves, and moving Square Coil in the right direction. So it's super exciting times. It's all foundational right now, nothing to report. I'm not going to pull the curtain back for you guys just yet, but we're very excited. All right. The sign world and everything that's all about it. Sometimes you really feel that you have the sign world figured out. You have it dialed in. You're doing great sales. The signs are coming out. Clients are buying. The signs are going out with hardly any warranty work, and life is good. And you go, God, we've got it figured out. This is it. This is my world. And then something happens where you get kicked the legs out from underneath you, and as you fall in your keister and you're sitting here on your butt going, what happened? You got to go back and look at what went wrong. You have to ask yourself at one point in time, was this my fault as an owner and I didn't lead very well? Or was this an employee problem because they didn't listen very well? And as much as I hate to say it, most of the time it ends up being the owner. It ends up being the owner that didn't lead correctly, decided that ESP was going to be the best way to communicate versus talking it out or putting it down on paper and handing a handout to your team. And they just think they should have automatically have gotten it by themselves. And that's not the case. That's not true. At all times, we must lead, we must give direction, we must always be educating our team. Now, this is really important when you start to have something what we call turnover. And in the world of millennials and all the little kids that I hate with a passion because they can't stay there for more than 1 year, you know who I'm talking about. We have to constantly keep reloading them with information and knowledge so they can be profitable for our companies. So let me tell you a story that happened here that really rammed this home for me. And as much as I would love to say I'm perfect, I am not because this hit me right between the eyes. We had a painter that was starting to become very cranky and he was being combative to all the directions that we gave him. And you could just tell he turned into a cancer of the culture of our company and he had to be let go. No brainer. We all saw it coming on the writing on the wall. We all saw it. We just knew. And so we brought him in. We said, today's your last day. This isn't working out. You're being too combative. You're not following direction. And he understood. We understood. Shook hands, part of the company. All was good. Now, here comes the fun part. How do we replace great talent? But even though they were cancer and cranky, we still need to replace with just good talent so we don't lose the quality of the signage that we produce. Very difficult. Especially very difficult when your paint department is a one-man band. He has all that knowledge, and when you let him go, all that knowledge disappears. You have to start from ground zero. Now, luckily, we have great companies like Matthews Paint and Axel Noble, and they come in and they help you the best that they can. But there's no replacement for experience. We all know this. So we hired the first guy and we said, hey, you have painting experience? He says, yes. Now, being from San Diego, we have NASCO, big, gigantic shipyards where all the aircraft carriers and battleships are built here in San Diego, and they all have to be painted gray. So we have a plethora of painters here down in San Diego. So when we run a paint ad, we get a lot of responses. We got to start digging through those. And for me, if they're there 3 months of different jobs, obviously they can't stay still. So those are automatically out. But if they've been there for more than a year, more than a couple of years, all right, they got enough roots that we can work with that. And we start bringing them in for interviews. Found this guy, super happy-go-lucky, great personality, on point, willing to help. And he gets out there and the paint quality is just not there. He's not understanding mixing the paint. He's not understanding the weight scale. He's not understanding all the little nuances that comes with a polyurethane paint. We've all been there. It's tough. It's not the easiest thing. And so then we find out that he's, underqualified, can't dial it in. And so now we have to go pivot, run another ad. We get another guy that's actually had 2 years of Matthews paint experience. That's great. Awesome. We bring him in. and his quality's not there yet, but it's good enough that we're not letting him go. We just need to train him. Now we knew of another paint guy from another company a while ago that he worked for us for a little bit. He moved on, but a fantastic painter, an artist in his profession. The guy's on point. And we said, "Hey, do you mind if you do any consulting for us?" And just give him that little edge, that little nudge of teachings. And he goes, "Yep, I will be there and we'll do it." So he's going to start this weekend and go next week. Now, if you're an owner that goes, "Whew, you dodged that bullet, you're good. Let's move on with our day. Everything's now good," you failed. If you are the owner that went, "Ooh, we have a lot more of a problem here," you are correct. We do have a huge problem here. Our processes aren't down on paper. Our way to reload the knowledge back into the employees when one leaves is not there. And we have a fundamental problem on how we're running our company. Small segue here. Want to talk to you guys about Square Coil software and what it does for your companies. If you're the type of guy that's still doing pen and paper and you think you're rocking and rolling, you just might be, but you're not running at the most efficient pace possible for yourself. Imagine doing a report. You want to know how many sales each salesperson did for the entire year. So you sit down, you get all your books out, and it takes you 2-3 hours to build this Excel spreadsheet, and you got your answer. But what if you could just click a button, and then your 2 or 3 hours are back in your hands, and you can evoke change inside of your company for those 2-3 hours versus building a report? That's what Square Coil software does for you. That's what we bring to the table in the way of efficiency. So check us out if you're not using us. Have you ever heard that you got to learn how to crawl before you can walk, and you got to learn how to walk before you can run? Well, in our case, you got to learn the basics before you can be an artist or a master at your craft. In our particular case, we did not give the employee what we needed. Let me say that again. We did not give the employee what they needed to be successful on day one. We did not have the fundamental processes in place. We didn't go back to basics. So, how do you go back to basics in the paint department? Well, I'm going to tell you what we did. I went in there personally and completely gutted every single drawer, cabinet, paint can, and all went through and said, what do we have extras of? What do we not have enough of? What do the paint guns look like? And I pretty much pretended that paint booth had to be brand new on day one before that employee could show up. Why? Because how you expect them to excel when you're giving them crap? If you're giving them an ugly paint booth and everything's all beat up, there's no way they're going to excel. But if you clean it up and show them the standard of what you want to hold it for, now we got something. So we moved all the paint cans, went through the cabinets, found out I had like 9 cans of primer. I had like 3,000 stir sticks. And then we only had like one suit. We had one gun that worked at the 5 guns. 4 of them need repair. It was in disarray. It wasn't working very well. It wasn't dialed in. So we went and got new guns, repaired the guns. We got them all dialed in. We made a nice little beautiful stand, hung all the guns up. And then when he comes in, I said, okay, there's 4 different types of primer for Matthews. Do you know the difference? He goes, we only used one. Okay, so the answer is no. It's fine, no problem. He told the truth. We can work with that. We called the Matthews paint rep in. We said, hey, we need some knowledge here. Why did you make it? Why did you use this? He came in, dropped some knowledge on us. We wrote it down. We understood it. And then we said, okay, painter, do you understand that? He said, yes. But me sitting there as the owner, you don't just leave these 2 and pray that they magically get it. I observed. You know what I also did that nobody else did? I wrote it down. I had a pen and paper with me, and I wrote down all the notes that the Matthews rep told my new painter. And I did, and he explained everything, and I wrote it all down. I had notes. So the very next day, I quizzed my painter. He didn't know it. Younger guy, wasn't very organized, great aptitude, great attitude, but it wasn't organized. Now, is it his fault or my fault? I could take arguments both ways, but in the end, if I'm going to be a leader, that means that the buck stops with me. It's my fault. Luckily, I was there, so no fault was given because I had all my notes. You know what I did? I went home, I rewrote it out, printed out, beautiful handout. Here's the steps for completion. Here's the steps you need for primer. This is what we need to go with it. This is how you mix it. And then I put that in a binder. And then right after that, I went back to one of our old painters that is no longer painting. And I said, hey, when you paint, what are some of your tips and tricks? And he explained to me, you want to start painting from off the item and then come across the item. And so you don't have any buildup on the edges. And he showed us some other things. I put that down on paper, put that into a binder, gave that to the parents, said, here's your steps for success. I want you to follow this every single time. Now I'm back down to basics. Now, Problem solved? We're getting better, but it's still not 100%. It's still not great. Why is it not great? Put yourself in my shoes. You're an owner. One of your departments went down. We brought a new guy on. We have consulting coming on. We got a playbook. I'm done, right? Maybe. Now, if you're saying no, that is the correct answer. If you're saying no, because if this department went bad, I bet you others are in disarray as well, you are correct. If you have to go back down to bare bones basics for one department, more than likely one other department is struggling as well. So I decided to go back to our router department and said, can you tell me the difference between 7508 and 7326? What is P95? If you don't know those acronyms, we are struggling. Again, we need to go back to it. So with that being said, we put another paper pamphlet together and said, here's all the different acrylics. This is why we use them, why we don't use them. Then we went one step further. And this is where I want all you guys that are listening to take it from your company and make sure that you have the quality that you have. So when your salesmen go out there and they say, no, our signs will stand the test of time, they truly do. I want you to follow my lead and start having product knowledge meetings. Once every 2 weeks, once a month, put together a 10 to 15-minute presentation about a certain products and why you use them in your company. Why do you use P95? For all you guys who don't know, it is a flat black acrylic. When we cut it, it's already flat black. No reason to paint it a matte color when it already comes that way. Most acrylics are full gloss, right? Full shiny. P95 doesn't. You should have that in your shop. Save money on paint. Client's happy. You're happy. Better pocketbook, better price, win-win. Why is 7508 different from 7326? These are things your shop must know. Once you're done with that department, I bet you're going to have more answers on substrates, laminates, metals. Why 090 aluminum and not 1/8 inch? Why 063 for other things? Those things need to be talked about at least yearly with your entire team so everybody remembers why we're doing it the way we're doing it. When you do your product knowledge meetings, it is fun, it is exciting, it is cheerleading. This is not the time to browbeat. This is not the time to say you should have known this. This is the time to cheerlead your company and train them like they've never heard about it before. When you go into school, when somebody talks to you, I'm going to vote that 80% of what they're telling you, you already know. Do you stop them and say, I already know that? If you do, shame on you. If you don't, that's called being polite. Same with this. You just teach them like they've never heard it before. They probably know most of it, but that's okay. Go over it again. Go over it again. They're going to get little nuggets of information. They're going to understand a little bit more. But the more you cheerlead and give that information out in a nice, beautiful handout form where they can take it and study it later, you're going to be golden. It's going to be perfect. So back to basics. Was I forced into it? Yes and no. I'll take arguments both ways. I didn't have to let them go, but I couldn't let my company suffer from the poor attitude. So was I backed in a corner? Yes, I was. Did I have to replace them? Yes, I did. Did I find errors in the way I run my team and my organization? Yes, I did. The difference from a good leader and a great leader is a great leader recognizes the weakness, pivots, changes it, fixes it, and puts it out for everyone to see. Just like I'm doing with you guys today. Wasn't perfect. I dialed it in, but the process that we have at the sign company now today was 1,000 times better than it was 2 months ago. And I'm very proud to have these different product knowledge meetings, and who knows where it's going to go. Maybe I'll have vendors come directly in and teach us. Maybe I will record it and put it here for you guys to watch. The world's a funny place. We'll never know what happens next. Talk to you guys next week.